Future Freedom Foundation's College Civil Liberties Tour. It's been an adventure so far, and we expect that to continue tonight. I first and foremost want to talk about the panelists that are going to be joining us this evening. First up, we're going to have Mr. Jacob Hornberger. Jacob Hornberger is the founder and president of the Future Freedom Foundation. He received his BA degree in economics from Virginia Military Institute and his law degree from the University of Texas. He was a civil and criminal trial attorney in Texas for 12 years and also served as an adjunct professor of law and economics at the University of Dallas. He is a regular libertarian commentator on Judge Andrew Napolitano's Freedom Watch on the Fox Business Network. We're also going to have Mr. Glenn Greenwald this evening. Glenn Greenwald is a former constitutional and civil rights litigator and is the author of 2 New York Times best-selling books on the Bush administration's executive power and foreign policy abuses. Greenwald was named by The Atlantic as one of the 25 most influential political commentators in the nation. He is the recipient of the first annual I.F. Stone Award for Independent Journalism and is the winner of the 2010 Online Journalism Association Award for his investigative work on the arrest and oppressive detention of Bradley Manning. Later this evening, God willing, fingers crossed, joining us will be Bruce Fine. And just to tell you a little bit right now, Bruce Fine was with us last night. We were in Indianapolis on this tour. Flew to Harvard today to give a speech, and he's flying back to speak to you good people here tonight. He's on his way now, so he's en route. But to tell you a little bit about Bruce Fine, he graduated from Harvard Law School with honors in 1972. After a coveted federal judicial clerkship, he joined the U.S. Department of Justice, where he served as an assistant director of the Office of Legal Policy. He was a legal advisor to the Assistant Attorney General for Antitrust and the Associate Deputy Attorney General under President Ronald Reagan. He has authored several volumes on the United States Supreme Court, the U.S. Constitution, and international law. Now, before we get to our featured panelists, I want to talk a little bit about something, if we're talking about civil liberties and talking about current events, something that happened here recently in December with the National Defense Authorization Act. I think many of you remember what was going on in December in that act. Now, there was a provision in this act referred to as Section 1031 that was of much controversy. There was a debate on Capitol Hill whether this section could allow our government, more specifically the executive branch, to arrest and hold people indefinitely without trial. And some said you could, and some said you couldn't, and they bickered back and forth. Well, it did pass, and Justin Amash, who's a representative from Michigan, had this to say about what went down in December on Capitol Hill. Quote, "It is one of the most anti-liberty pieces of legislation of our lifetime." That's what he had to say about this. He saw it as something unprecedented and new. The former governor of Virginia, Jim Gilmore, had this to say about the NDAA and that provision specifically. "The provisions of this bill undermine the basic safeguards that we enjoy as Americans. It is dangerous and it should not be supported by anyone, Republican or Democrat, liberal or conservative, citizen or non-citizen." This is something that all Americans should be concerned about, according to Governor Gilmore. He added, said Governor Gilmore, quote, "This ill-considered bill is one of those dangers to our liberties by an unwise extension of military power in the homeland, contrary to all law, precedent, and history." Now, different people had different things to say during this debate on Capitol Hill about the NDAA and a certain provision. You just heard from some people who are obviously opposed to it. Well, somebody who wasn't opposed to it and was a pretty big champion of it was Senator Lindsey Graham. Senator Lindsey Graham was sort of in the middle of this debate. Some people were saying, you know, you can't do this to private citizens, and obviously Justin Amash and others were saying, yes, you can. Rand Paul was saying, yes, you can. Senator Jim DeMint and Mike Lee, yes, you can. Well, Senator Lindsey Graham wanted to make all of this clear to everybody about what this provision meant. He wanted to end the debate right there. That Section 1031 in the National Defense Authorization Act, according to Senator Graham, quote, "designates the world as a battlefield, including the homeland. We're in a state of war. Sometimes our constitutional protections are pushed aside during a time of war." And Lindsey Graham wanted everybody to know that the United States, our homeland, was a battlefield. Now, that is unprecedented in the way that Justin Amash described it. That is unprecedented in American history, and the way that Governor Gilmore described it. Senator Graham did not stop there. He said, and this is a quote, one of these suspects, this is a quote, "When they say I want to talk to a lawyer, we tell them, shut up, you don't get a lawyer." That's a quote from Senator Lindsey Graham. Folks, it is a new day in the United States of America when a supposed leader can get up there on Capitol Hill and push for such legislation and thinks that this is any way within the American tradition that our founders intended. I mean, we've reached a new day in American politics. You know, guys like Senator Lindsey Graham and John McCain and Joe Lieberman and now Barack Obama and certainly George W. Bush and Hillary Clinton told us for years and years and years that we have to fight them over there so we don't have to fight them over here. How many times have we heard that throughout the war on terror? Well, now they're telling us we have to fight them over here, and Americans' constitutional protections must go by the wayside to help protect you. That is a new day in America. It's unprecedented and it's scary. Senator Rand Paul pointed out during this debate, quote, "Should we err today and remove some of the most important checks on state power in the name of fighting terrorism, well, then the terrorists have won." And he's absolutely right. If in the name of fighting them over there, we give up some of our constitutional liberties, that is absolutely horrible. And then to say, well, we're going to give them up at home, people on American soil, you're just going to give them up across the board because this is also a battlefield? The terrorists have won. I don't know what guys like Senator Lindsey Graham trying to think they're accomplished. Osama bin Laden and Al-Qaeda, mission accomplished. They did it. We're giving up the things that make us Americans the most. Our heritage protections, our constitutional protections. And let me give you an example of how scary this is. You know, when al-Awlaki was killed, the Al-Qaeda collaborator overseas, an American citizen, that was very controversial about the assassination, and it should have been.